Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown!
Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another one!
Oladipo!
Another one! Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the three, and
He hit it!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Of course, coming to you from high atop the 18th fairway, the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios Annex. We picked it up and moved it a little north and east. Coming to you, of course, from BB's Market here in Bloomington, a part of the WOW Club, WOW Network, and one of our great sponsors. Great place to stop by, and we like to do that each and every Friday. We'll call it Game Day Fridays. I have to come up with a name for it. I don't have to name everything. Looking forward to another great show, of course. We're brought to you by our good friends at Andy Moore Honda. Just go to andymorehonda.com, and you will find the best deals on new and used vehicles around. Also, of course, Endeavor Hospitality and their WOW Club. Make sure you go to your Apple App Store, Google Play Store, sign up for the WOW Club. Start earning WOW rewards today to great places like BB's Market here, where you can stop in, whether you live in the area or visiting, passing through for games, tailgating, stuff to take home. I know they can shrink wrap, freeze the meat. It's incredible. So great place to come by, but make sure you do on that as I knock my phone off there, my information tablet. Hope everybody's doing well. Dustin's on assignment. Not with us today, but we still have a great lineup. Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com will join us, and we have got plenty to talk about with him on the IU basketball side in regards to recruiting. There was also the Asa Newell visit that we're going to talk about, get you caught up on how that went. Dylan Harper, Rakeese Passmore, they have scheduled visits coming up. We'll talk about that. And then, of course, we've got the game coming up tomorrow. We'll be talking about that as well. Looking forward to that. And, hey, college football, it's still happening, baby. We're right in the middle of that. The Red Zone coming at you today. Looking forward to that. We'll talk about all the big games that are coming up, going on. Of course, Michigan State, a big game this weekend. Indiana off with a bye, so they don't lose. I cannot wait to talk to Jeffrey the Greek about this Maryland football schedule. You know, there's 23 football schedules were released yesterday. And boy, you want to talk about a schedule jumping out at me. Here, Indiana is opening up against a Big Ten opponent for the fifth time in 7 seasons. Fifth time in 7 seasons. And for the second time now against Ohio State. Maryland, their schedule, their first 3 games are at home. They're all non-conference games. They open with Towson. They play Virginia and Charlotte. Their 3 crossover games to the West Division for next year: Northwestern, Nebraska, and Illinois. Illinois is up right now. We'll see if that sustains itself. But at worst, then you add in Rutgers and Indiana. That's 8 of their 12 games right there. They're going to be favored in 7 of those 8 games right off the bat. So I just you talk about that's a schedule to be had and to be salivating over if you're a different coach. But plenty to get to. Who's going to the game? Indiana playing basketball, of course, on Saturday afternoon as they'll take on Marion University. And their athletic director, if you didn't know, Steve Downing, I didn't think quick enough to try to get him on. Regret that. Wished I would have. And I believe Indiana also has St. Francis on the schedule later, up in Fort Wayne. And that, of course, you heard Kyler mention this yesterday, Kyler Staley from the Hoosier.com, that's where Damon Bailey's son plays. So lots of IU connections. People were asking about playing Evansville yesterday. And, well, as you can see, these two games right here, IU connections. So I think that will continue. If there's an IU connection, we'll see that. And that's good. That's what you do. Hello to everybody jumping on the Andy Moore Honda hotline. Pete, up and early, up and at it, early and often. Tanis, Tanis says, sorry for that 3 p.m. weekend ruining scrimmage game. Y'all got to cover. Yeah, it is. Well, I'll be honest with you. It is just that, because Indiana has the bye weekend, and it would have been a rare opportunity for us that work in this field to have a weekend off at least. But nope, not going to happen. Just like last year, same exact thing happened. The Big Ten decided to schedule Big Ten basketball media days during Indiana's bye week last year. So no rest for the wicked. How's everybody doing? Who's coming to the game? Who is just going to watch it? Who's complaining about having to get ESPN Plus? There were some games last night. Baltimore, they handled Tom Brady in Tampa Bay 27-22. The Donda Academy has closed. That's the Yee man. Oh, and did you see this? Yeezys. Yee tried to, Adidas, everybody in the world has dropped Kanye West over his anti-Semitic remarks. I don't know that he really believes anything he says, to be honest with you. I think he just says a lot of stuff to get the attention that he gets, although this was not the attention he planned for, because this is apparently cost him about $900 million and will cut his net worth from $1.2 billion to $400 million. Now that sounds great. So it's $400 million. That'd be great for me. But if you did have $1.2 billion and you just lost, that's a lot. That's a ton. But he went to the Skechers headquarters yesterday, unannounced, and showed up, and eventually was escorted out of the building by Skechers people. He was allegedly filming and all of that, so just crazy. Let's see, John jumping on. John, how are you, sir? Said, how can you watch the IU scrimmage? I believe that is going to be on ESPN Plus. Correct me if I'm wrong, peeps. And, you know, another thing, if people asking things like that, I guarantee you, you go to Google, which I'm going to do right now, and I'm going to type in IU basketball schedule. And that pops up, but it does not have the exhibitions on there. That's odd. Why would Indiana not list that on their own schedule and just call it an exhibition game? So I spoke too soon. It's a little surprising. They should have that on there. They don't. My bad. I will be able to confirm that. I should have this information in here. I can't believe they haven't sent that out yet. That information is usually sent 2 days before all the game information. But sometimes it's the first game, and it's not really a game like that. It's an exhibition. So, but looking forward to seeing the guys out and getting the first glimpse of rotation.
Hey, I've got it for you. Both Marion and St. Francis will be on BTN Plus.
BTN Plus, yeah, I kind of figured that. That's exactly what I assumed.
As well as their regular season opener versus Morehead State.
Well, yeah.
We all know why at that point, why they're doing it. We've discussed that before, but
yeah, and are there any other games?
No, so the two exhibitions and the regular season opener are the only times Indiana is on BTN Plus this year.
Well, two things. One, you're not going to put your a marquee team, putting it on that, you're going to risk losing viewers, upsetting people. But at the same time, if you're trying to grow that network, that's kind of what they usually do.
And plus, they know if any fan base is going to pay the money
Stop using
for
the word plus.
subscription.
I'm kidding.
What's wrong?
I said stop using the word plus.
Is that not what it's called?
I'm kidding. You said plus. I was joking.
I didn't.
There's a commercial out right now that they're talking about some other streaming thing plus. And they're going, well, what are you going to call it? That plus? They go, no, everybody calls it that. Well, what about that plus plus plus?
Yeah. But yeah, they know Indiana of all fan bases is going to be the one that would be willing to pony up the money to, they would do I think they have a free trial, but here's the thing. There's going to be so many people who use the free trial and forget to cancel and end up, paying for the whole monthly thing until they realize that something's coming out of their account. And so their biggest chance at doing that, and it makes perfect sense. Dustin explained this to me a few weeks ago when we talked about it, why they would choose Indiana, because they're going to be the fan base that has the most participation in online basketball viewing. You would think so, at least.
We need to start ISB Plus.
What would ISB Plus include?
ISB Plus would be it would be an extra private interview that is not aired.
I do think YouTube has something. I can't think of what it's called. We can look into something like that.
For
I do know a lot of
$1.
YouTubers. Have you ever heard of Patreon, Jim?
No. For $1 a month, just $1 a month, it would just be a straight up interview with someone.
We could email it to our those who contribute or something like that.
Well, it would be on a private link.
We need it. We obviously haven't looked far into this. For those of you who are listening,
I can tell you, I can tell you, you would just set up. It's set up in a private deal. But, that would be great to do to get really something like when we have a high priority guest on, which is frequently, but to do an extra like we used to do the bonus segment.
Yes, the overtime.
Basically, it would be overtime, but
that's what we should call it, ISB overtime.
ISB.
Instead of sticking with the plus like every other media connection is doing.
All right, I agree with you. I like the ISBOT.
There you go.
How about that? For $1 a month, one stinking dollar. We'll see. Hey, we got to take a break. We've got lots of great stuff coming up. Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com is going to join us next, and we are going to be talking about the Asa Newell visit. How did that go? We'll find out. I'll tell you today. Also, there are some scheduled visits coming up for Indiana, and we will be talking about that as well with Dylan Harper, Raquise Passmore, and then following segment, we'll talk about tomorrow's game. So plenty coming up here from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios Annex here as we're from BB's Market, live as we are each and every Friday, where you can come in and enjoy a breakfast on me. And I'm going to see what they're cooking up back there, by the way, while we head to this break. Hope you're having a good day, and we'll be back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting Bloomington.
All right. I wonder if Jim's headphones disconnected while he got up and walked away. I guess we'll find out. One thing I we may be doing today, guys, as well, since we won't have Zach Osterman on. I just cut up a interview that our friend Caleb Nost did with the head coach at Marion. And I was going to ask Jim if he wanted us to air that this morning, but he walked away. So I guess we'll have to wait on that in a little bit. What are the odds Jim makes it back before the break ends? We got about 1:10, waiting on Alec Lasley to show up as well. There he is. Morning, Alec.
Morning. How's it going, guys?
Going good. Jim is wandering, so I may be getting us started if he doesn't make it back here on time. But he looks like he might be making his way over here right now.
Sounds good.
That's right. It's officially basketball season. Here's the thing. I love basketball season. I just hate when it leads in the way that it's leading in with how bad football's doing.
Yeah. I mean, good thing Indiana basketball has this kind of season upcoming, or it would be a long.
Hey, Jim,
next
your
6
microphone's
months.
muted. I don't know if you know that. I hope he can hear me too. I think his headphones might have got disconnected. Your microphone's muted. Here we go.
In a Sports Beat Radio.
Get all nervous.
This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Friday. Coming to you, of course, from BB's live, as we are each and every Friday, a part of Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club in the Wow Network. Make sure you stop by, whether you're getting ready to tailgate or stocking up those big, juicy ribeye steaks over there, and the full-size bakery as well. And don't forget, we're brought to you by Southern Stone, where each and every Monday, starting this Monday on Halloween night, and you don't have to dress up, that's not required, but Inside Indiana Basketball with Don Fisher and Coach Mike Woodson takes place at Southern Stone, located at Patterson and Rogers, right in Bloomington. Also on Wednesdays, Inside Indiana Football with Don and Tom Allen is still going on, so you can catch that as well. Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com joining me now. How's it going, Alec?
Good. How are you doing?
I can't complain. I don't think you want to listen to it. So there's that. So we got that out of the way. Big weekend for Indiana basketball fans because they can finally get a view to get to see, and all of us really, what this team has. And, of course, it's not like we're going to see a lot of answers, but I think we will see the starting lineup confirmed, which I don't think that there's really much discussion there. But the rotations and Tamar Bates, Jordan Geronimo, those are the guys I'm interested in seeing. I know that Jalen Hood-Shapiro is going to perform well. I'm interested in seeing if Miller Kopp can relax into his shooting zone. Don Fisher on Monday said that he's been shooting the ball well, and at Hoosier Hysteria, he looked extraordinarily fluid. Don told us that Trey Galloway had as well, but we'll talk about that in the next segment. I know that there are a lot of visits that are scheduled and have already happened. Asa Newell, we'll start with him because that visit has happened. Another Montverde Academy kid, of which Indiana, of course, has I don't want to call it a pipeline, but they certainly have a great relationship there with two members on the program on the team right now, and Malik Rayneau and Jalen Hood-Schifino. And then, of course, they have recruited Derek Queen. They're recruiting Liam McNeely. So just a lot of interaction between Montverde student athletes in Indiana.
Yeah, absolutely. And this was kind of the next step in that, like you said, that pipeline and that recruitment of those players. Biggest thing that to kind of take away from that visit, both from talking with Asa and his dad, obviously this is their second time to Indiana, so they already kind of had a feel of what Indiana basketball was about. But that was during the summer; kids weren't on campus. There wasn't a lot going on at that time. So for them to get back during a weekend where there was no football, so there was a sole focus just on basketball. The biggest takeaway that they had is just how phenomenal that fan base is. They learned a little bit more about the tradition and the history. And those are two things that are going to be high on Ace's list when he, eventually comes down to making a decision. Same with his dad. Obviously, this is Ace's decision, but both of them really took away what a tremendous, not only historic program, obviously, that Indiana is, and learning a little bit more about that history, but the fan base, whether it be on social media, whether it be walking around campus, whether it be doing anything like that. The correlation between the students, the fans, and the players, and even recruits, was something that really stood out. Outside of that, obviously, the biggest thing is for them to actually see a little bit more about this Mike Woodson system in year two, especially with Race Thompson, Trace Jackson Davis now having another year under Mike Woodson, being able to learn that offense, learn that defense as well. So all in all, Indiana is going to remain very high up on that list, have been for quite some time. And I think this is going to be one that Indiana, especially Mike Woodson, is going to remain very heavily involved in kind of that daily and weekly communication moving forward.
Yeah, and that is key, especially, we talk about, because people like to focus on the fact that in this current class, there are a couple of openings because basically there were some swings and misses, which that's not surprising. But I think for them all to be misses was a little surprising. And so I think some fans are feeling a little pressured by that. But the portal, the one thing is, the portal is always, not only is it always there, it's always going to have great pieces in it. And it's almost easier than recruiting, because you can actually basically say, all right, I need this piece, and if it fits, they need to move quickly as well. I don't know. But they do have to do a better job of using the portal. Right now, I don't think that overall it's a 50-50 wash at the moment. Xavier's worked out. Miller Kopp, we'll see. He's still a question mark. But obviously, Parker Stewart didn't really work out. The big man didn't really work out. But that's going to be a reality for Indiana.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you look at Asa Newell, the biggest thing about him, he's going to be I would say college ready to come in and make an impact right away. Obviously, top 6 guy in the 2024 class in the Rivals ranking. So automatically when you have that type of skill level and that type of expectation coming in, especially when you're still 2 years out of college, there's the expectation that you're going to continue to grow a little bit more and be even more ready to make an impact right away. And that's the kind of player that he is, especially with that athletic ability. He's working more and more on that shot. And the thing, having 2 years in that Montverde system, it just shows you how to be not only mentally but physically prepared for the college level. Obviously, we've heard that from Jalen Hood-Schifino, Malik Rayneau, and even the guys around the program who just talk about how mature, both physically and mentally, that those guys are. So when you have players like that could potentially step in right away, it does take a little bit of the pressure off of knowing that you have to go out and get 2, 3, 4 guys in the portal. Because with Mike Woodson, he's probably not going to go out and get, a freshman, a 3-4 year player out of the portal. It's probably going to be used as, in those transition years. When you look at, especially this upcoming year, losing a lot of key pieces, but having a lot of youth and still depth on that roster. So you're going to see a lot of guys coming out of the transfer portal for Indiana specifically as kind of those bridge gap years to bridge that gap from a guy like Trace Jackson Davis and Race Thompson to Asa Newell and whoever they may get in that 2024 class, and obviously moving into 2025. So it's still important, but if you do get those eventual commitments from some of these other top players in the 2024 class, at least, it does take a little bit of pressure off of knowing, hey, I need to go get a guy who's going to be here for several years because I don't know what I'm going to have later on coming in the next class or two. So, Indiana's setting themselves up still in a good spot to do both, which is what you need to do. But, it just comes down to landing either one of those two guys. Asa Newell's probably not a guy who's going to commit early unless, something just really pops and he knows exactly where he wants to go and feels comfortable with that. So it still will put a little pressure on Indiana trying to get in the portal and at least landing someone for a year as that bridge player for the 2024 class.
Absolutely. And I think the fact that they already have teammates here is going to be a big help for that, number one. And that depends. We don't know that Jalen Hood-Schifino is going to be here next year. Malik Renaud probably will be. And they weren't really teammates, I guess, were they?
Nope. Yeah, this is Ace's first year. He transferred in, so obviously didn't overlap down there. But at the same time, this is that program at Montverde is very tight knit, and they want to make sure that any player who's coming from there is going to keep kind of that winning tradition. So
absolutely. I pointed out last week, not to interrupt you, but they have 13 players in the NBA right now. That's more than most, if not all, Division I colleges. So yeah, they want that. They want to keep that rep going. And not only does Indiana have to win, more importantly, they have to develop these guys. These guys that come from Montverde, they have to have a path that goes on to the next level, to the NBA. In my opinion, as long as that's happening, then I think that pipeline will continue and possibly widen.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking with both Asa and his dad, that they've been very open about that, of saying, hey, we obviously don't know Jalen and Malik extremely well. They've had multiple conversations since obviously both have arrived at Indiana, and Asa has started to be, really heavily recruited by Indiana. So that communication has been open and has been frequent. But they've been very open about saying that they are going to watch how these guys develop and how that season goes with them, whether it be skill set, whether it be, minutes, what happens with Jalen Hood-Schifino. Could he potentially be a one and done, which, I don't think a lot of people expected when he did commit to Indiana last year. So there's a lot of things that they're really going to look into. But, most of the kids from Montverde are very smart in terms of where they want to set themselves up
in every way. They're smart in every way.
Yeah, but they want to set themselves up in a good position, and that their coaches want to do that as well. And so you're going to go to a program that sets these kids up for success, at the college level. And that's why it is definitely, extremely important for, Indiana to really progress nicely with Jalen Hood-Schifino and Malik Renaud. Whereas if this were another high school, and definitely not a prep school with this kind of exposure that Montverde has, that wouldn't be as big of a deal. But because of everything that we have talked about, it is definitely extremely important to make sure that you develop both of those players for whichever, whether it's Asa Newell or any of these other guys coming from Montverde to show that you can develop them even more.
Oh, absolutely, because Indiana wants to see Indiana being promoted by Montverde, because that's a commercial for Indiana basketball. And they want that, because there are a lot of people that Montverde reaches, a lot of eyes, because of the national schedule they play, because of where all the people come from. Their players, they're not from Florida, man. They're from all over. Where was Asa Newell originally from?
The Georgia area.
So Georgia. Jalen Hood is from Charlotte. Liam is from Texas. So it's not quite an international melting pot. What it is, the school is. And then they have got other guys that keep coming in the pipeline. There's a 7-footer there. There's the tallest guy in basketball right now, I think. Is he 7'6"? Sophomore?
Yeah, they I mean, it's funny because they have guys who are probably going to be the top of the top when it comes to their juniors and senior years who barely sniff the floor as freshmen and sophomore just because of how talented and deep that roster is from top to bottom. But that's why it's just like we talked about, so extremely important to continue to do well with the kids that they do have, because that coaching staff down in Montverde is going to see that and going to push kids not to commit necessarily, but to continue to go on visits. And that's all you need to really start to get a snowball effect, especially when you already have some kids committed.
Let's see. I want to make sure we don't run along here. No, we're good. So visits have been going good for a lot of guys, but what is it going to take for Indiana to land, say, Asa Newell? What do you think he's looking at from your conversations? What is going to need to happen? What is he going to need to see, him and his dad, for that decision to come to Indiana?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing with a lot of these kids that Indiana's targeting right now under Mike Woodson is they're some of the most talented kids in the country, so they want to get to the next level. So Indiana needs to obviously you can't do that in one season, right? But Indiana needs to be able to push and pump some of these kids out to the NBA. And I think that starts with Jalen Hood-Schifino. That starts with Trace Jackson Davis. Getting drafted, hearing names on draft night is obviously extremely important, especially when Mike Woodson is a guy who has played and coached in the NBA for so long. You can only run on, hey, I've done this for so long before it starts to kind of run its course if you haven't been able to produce any of that development, any of that progression within your college roster. So that's obviously number one for a lot of these kids. But number two is definitely style of play and system. And you saw a little bit of that, obviously, with what Indiana and Mike Woodson wanted to do last season, especially that more kind of versatile wing position, which is so intriguing to a lot of players nowadays, where you don't have a lot of traditional big men, especially not in the Big Ten with kind of that style of play. So if you can bring that NBA style, that more athletic, up and down pace, where you're getting all over the floor and being able to use your athleticism and your skill in multiple different positions, multiple different parts of that system, that's extremely important as well. They've done a good job connecting the two at the moment, but again, there's only so much you can do in year one when you basically don't have a lot of those players that fit how you want to run your system. So moving into this year, I think is extremely important to do that. But the biggest thing with Mike Woodson is getting involved in these recruitments early on and staying involved. He has not done that. No Indiana head coach, I think, has done that since kind of the middle years of Tom Crean. Being able to get involved early with a recruitment and staying the main point of contact. A lot of these assistants, obviously, which happens around the country, but the top programs have the head coach involved in a lot of these recruitments for the majority of them, and I think that's the next step that Mike Woodson needs to take, because these recruitments don't last 1 or 2 weeks, or typically 1 or 2 months. It's a much further along and dragged out process where he needs to get ahead of the 8 ball and stay there with his communication. So those are the three big things with talking not only to Asa and his dad, but a lot of these kids who are scheduling visits and coming back from visits, and then having that relationship continue to develop. Those are the kind of key factors, especially when it comes to Indiana.
What do you think about Kohli, the greatest of all time cricketer? I just that was a comment from Ashok. Just thought I'd throw that up there. We don't get many cricket comments, so I thought I would throw that in there. We've got lots more basketball to talk with Alec Lasley. Caleb Nost, Hoosier.com contributor, also saying, oh, that's not what I was talking about. But we've got more to talk about with the visits coming up. You've got more coming, and there's a game tomorrow. Alec Lasley from the Hoosier.com with us right now. We're back with more from BB's, brought to you by Go Team. Oh, great snack. Speaking of which, salted caramel snickerdoodle. I just reached in and grabbed a bag. Man, keep you on the go. Great protein for that athlete, for the person on the go. Whatever you need, you can just grab it and go. We're back with more Alec Lasley right after this.
We'll be right back to the golf club at Eagle Point
Stay
Studios
back, Jim. Hold
for more
on.
Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Golfers, here's a
All right, so I meant to say this last break before you got up, but Caleb Nost sent me an interview he did with the Marion head coach, and I have it ready to roll if you want to do that at 9:30.
Yeah, Caleb, why didn't you send that to... Yeah. When did you do it? And I wish I'd have known about it.
He did it a couple days ago, and I told him to send it to me, and I would air it Friday if we were able to.
Is it audio only?
Yes, it's audio only.
Well, yeah.
And I chopped it up to where it'll fit a whole segment.
Can we add it to the podcast at least?
What do you mean?
Like send it out as the podcast?
It'll be on the regular podcast if that's what you're asking.
I'm talking about the entire interview.
I can still make it a YouTube clip. It just won't have. There just won't be a video of him.
That'll be fine. That would be great.
Okay. Well, there you go. We'll do that after Alec. I meant to say that earlier, but you hopped up too quickly. That's why I told you to stay back.
Okay. No worries.
Thanks to Caleb for doing that.
Well, yeah, I wish I'd have known, dude. See, I wrote. That's one of the things that I intended to do and didn't do. I wanted to get him on the show, but I guess I did ended up. But
indirectly.
Why did Caleb interview him?
You can ask him because I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean
I'm curious if the whole thing will upload to Spreaker or if I could just have to play it from something else. So let me see if I can. What I need to do here. Okay, yeah, cool. The whole thing, yeah, it's just under 20 minutes. So yeah, if you break right at 9:30. We're back in 20 seconds, by the way, 25 seconds.
For well-qualified buyers on all 2017 through 2021 Honda certified pre-owned Accords, Civics, CRVs, HRVs, and Pilots. See dealer for financing deals. Andy Moore Honda, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Friday. Of course, we're coming to you from BB's Market Butchers and Bakers, part of the WOW Club, located right on College, just north of Bloomington South High School. Of course, we're here each and every Friday. You can get yourself ready for tailgating, for the weekend. Still some great grilling. I'll grill all winter. I don't care. I'm going to grill all winter. Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com is with us. Brought to you by our good friend at Remax Realty in the Indianapolis area. If you're looking for a home there, you need Cheryl Sizemore and her 2 decades of experience, it could be the difference between you getting the home you want or not. Reach out to her, Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Alec, we were talking about in the last segment, Asa Newell has visited, but yet there are a couple more visits that are coming, and the coaches have been out on the road recruiting right here of late too. So they're pulling double duty as they try to squeeze in every minute of recruiting time before the season, really comes hits landfall, makes landfall, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. And the 2 biggest guys upcoming, right? There's still a couple other visits that are trying to be planned out, but nothing set in stone. But the 2 biggest ones, 2024 top 50 guard, Rakis Passmore from Combine Academy in North Carolina. He's going to be visiting for the first game of the season for Indiana. So he'll be on campus November 6th to the 8th for that first game. And that'll be an official visit for him. That's a guy who's kind of, I would say come on late in terms of Indiana's involvement over the past, maybe 3 months, but done a phenomenal job. Seeing him multiple times, not only for open gyms, but for different scrimmages and during the summer. Both Yuzio Rosemond and Kenya Hunter have been down there multiple times. So kind of a dual effort recruitment there with both of them heavily involved. Super athletic kind of combo guard. Can play a few different positions, 6'5", 6'6" on the perimeter. A guy who has offers from pretty much everyone out there: Kansas, Tennessee, Illinois, Auburn, Oregon, Virginia. It's interesting, a lot of kind of different styles of play for who he is, which is kind of an electrifying 2-way player. A lot of people talk about his ability to defend and be a very, very, very good, if not one of the best 2-way perimeter players in the high school level right now, regardless of class. And obviously that's high praise for someone, especially still a junior. But he's someone that I think fits exactly what Mike Woodson's trying to do with that backcourt and with that wing position, being able to play both on and off the ball. But that physical frame and aggressive nature of how he plays the game. So that's a critical one, obviously. And then the one that just came out yesterday, Dylan Harper, top 10 player in the class of 2024, is going to be visiting as well in November, basically the same week, couple days after, November 11th to 13th. So he'll be on campus. Those are the 2 upcoming visits for Indiana, both extremely important. I think out of those 2, you look at Rakis Passmore as someone who Indiana has a much better chance of landing through talking to a couple different people. Dylan Harper, obviously the younger brother of former Rutgers standout forward Ron Harper Jr. Rutgers is very much heavily involved in that one. That's going to be tough to beat. And then he was on an official visit to Duke last week. Duke is another team that I'm told is kind of up there with Rutgers if he decides to go kind of out of the family and out of state there to another school. But Michigan involved with Dylan Harper too, where he'll be on campus this weekend. Auburn, Missouri, UCLA, Kansas, some of the other schools that have offered as well. So biggest thing with Indiana, they're getting top 50 talent. They're getting top 15. They're getting top 5 talent to come to campus for official visits, for junior year official visits. And that's extremely important for Indiana to eventually start landing some of these kids is getting more on campus, and that's what they're doing.
Yeah, and we hear them talk about Woody's experience, as Caleb points out, coaching Montverde Academy alum RJ Barrett for a short time with the Knicks. Always a guy you see him hugging in those reunion videos they post. So those relationships, yeah, we talked about that earlier, running deep. Also, there's a game this weekend, Alec. It's an exhibition, but a game nonetheless against Marion, and Steve Downing, the former IU standout, is the AD there. But nice Indiana relationship with that. But it's going to be the Hoosier fans' first look, or everyone's first look at this unit as a unit. I know. I think that Woody is going to play as many of those guys as he can, and I think he will have that opportunity since it's an exhibition. it's a tough balance. You want to get the most minutes for the guys who are going to spend the most minutes on the floor, but at the same time, you've got to get the guys who are also going to be coming in their time. So I expect to see, I don't know, at least 13. I think all 13 scholarship players will probably play in this game. We've heard, talk about Logan Duncan. I want to see that. I want to see how he plays. I want to see how Tamar Bates plays. I want to see how Jordan Geronimo plays. I want to see how Miller Kopp shoots. I am interested to see the dynamic between Jalen Hood-Schifino and Xavier, but I think that's going to be phenomenal personally, because I just have such high regard for Jalen Hood-Schifino's game. And then the rotations, what's that going to be like? So we'll get a glimpse of that.
Yeah, and again, there's I think as much as there's returning for Indiana, and I don't think there's obviously as many questions as there were last year. I still think there's a lot of questions that need to be answered for this Indiana roster in order to reach the potential and the expectations that they have. But at the same time, you're not going to get that out of this weekend. But it's now getting into that time for Indiana to really lock in and get ready for this season. Biggest thing I think that you're going to be able to take out of this game is just kind of what they do differently, potentially to get better and more open shots. Doesn't matter really who you're playing to actually see that. And I think Mike Woodson and this staff is done a little bit different kind of scheme wise, trying to get more open looks for a guy like Miller Kopp, or more open looks for a guy like Xavier Johnson, or Race Thompson, or anyone who Mike Woodson is going to lean on a little bit to get some open shots and make some open shots. So I think that's the biggest thing, just scheme-wise and system-wise, what they've done differently and what they've adjusted from last year. But again, I still think it's going to be interesting to kind of see what Tamar Bates does, what Jordan Geronimo does, what Trey Galloway does, what some of these reserves do in the minutes that they do get tomorrow. Again, they're going to be the much more athletic, much more physical, much better, much taller team. So there's not going to be as much resistance, obviously, as you would get even in a regular non-conference game. So regardless of what happens, you're not going to be able to take away too much. But I do think being able to see kind of what some of those players do when they go out there is at least going to be interesting for a lot of people and fun for a lot of people. And that's what that next step is going into this season. It's also going to be interesting to see what the backcourt tandem of Xavier Johnson and Jalen Hood-Schifino can do off of ball screen action with a Race Thompson or a Trace Jackson Davis. I think we're going to see a couple jump shots from Trace Jackson Davis. We'll see kind of what that looks like. See a little bit more kind of pick and pop action from the guards and the big men than just pick and roll, which is what they ran almost every single possession last year. So there's a lot of things that we can watch out for, but I think it's going to be more fun for everyone involved just to see this team out on the floor for the first time, really in that kind of game atmosphere with the jerseys on and with fans there as well.
You mentioned we were talking about some guys, CJ Gunn and Caleb Banks, guys that don't get talked about a lot. I will get to see those guys as well. And I'm interested in seeing what CJ can do when he gets an opportunity. We're not talking about there's other guys too that like Anthony Leal that could step into a role. We just don't know. There's a lot of unknowns. But one of the things that Trace Jackson Davis and developing a shot, I don't care if he develops a shot. I don't think this team needs that. It would be nice, but it's not something that I think they need to be. He doesn't need to be trying, to hit 5 jumpers a game if that's not his milieu. Especially this season with the added pieces. If Miller Kopp can just knock down, and they don't even have to be 3-pointers, but just knock down a couple of shots. If the guards can just knock down a couple of shots, that's going to loosen things up greatly from how it has been in the past. I don't need Trace Jackson Davis out there shooting if that's the case. I know that Russell brings big. He did fine. He did pretty damn well without having. Everybody talks about him not having a shot. Well, he's done pretty well not having a shot. I mean, I don't know that I've ever seen a guy with all the accolades that he has, all the preseason All-Americans and the All-Americans that he already has earned, and talking about this big hole that he has. Well, man, he's sure getting a lot done for someone who's got that big of a hole. He just excels in other places, and you know what? That's what he's going to do, and I think that's fine. I don't think that he has to work on developing that shot during this season. If it ain't there, fine, leave that in the practice gym. But that's just my take on that. I don't care if he can shoot, because there should be other people that can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've talked about it before, where it's not even him taking threes in a game, right? It's just him.
Oh yeah,
he's gonna be.
Right, yeah.
He's gonna have open looks at the free throw line extended, and he's going to need to at least keep the defense honest a little bit and take a few of those. It's going to be interesting though what happens if he starts out a game, let's say, with a few of those jumpers and misses 2 or 3 to start. Kind of what that does for his confidence shooting the ball, because he's not going to be a guy who's going to take a lot, but if he's not able just to make one of those a game, it is going to I think hurt the offense a little bit in kind of what they're trying to do. But at the same time, he's a guy who's still going to go out and get 18 and 10 on almost any given night, regardless of kind of what that jump shot looks like. So if it's not working, it's not going to be a huge deal, but he is going to need to be able to at least have the confidence to take those. Not necessarily always make them, but at least take them, just to keep that defense honest and at least keep the offense able to run something through him at that high post, right? I mean, Race Thompson's done a phenomenal job just as a passer out of the high post, but if the defense is going to lay off of you like that, it makes that a lot harder to dump the ball in, regardless of who's on the block, regardless of who's around you on the floor on the perimeter. So it does start with him being able to at least keep the defense guarding him and show some sort of confidence in taking that jumper to continue to make this offense have the ability to run through the high post, which I think you're going to see a little bit more of as well this year.
Ed mentioned what coach after Knight has developed players. Well, I'll tell you, Tom Crean put a ton of players in the NBA. As a matter of fact, 7 of 8 players that were in the NBA 2 years ago from IU were Tom Crean players, and that may be 8 of 9 or 8 of 10 now. So, I mean, that's I don't know if he's developing players, but Victor Oladipo sure developed pretty damn well under that. Let's see. Tim asked about Bryson Tiller, a recruit, and then Caleb Nost, or the Hoosier.com contributor, also says that Tiller is pretty incredible to see in person, improving a ton at the OTE. A lot of great coaching and teammates in that league to work with. Anything on that, Alec?
Yeah, 2025 guy, 5-star, super talented perimeter player, developing a little bit more as a ball handler, but he's a guy who's been open about wanting to visit Indiana from the Georgia area as well. So UC Roseman's done a good job early in that stage, but that recruitment really has not begun. I would say, and probably won't here until next summer. But he's a guy just kind of keep on the radar for Indiana fans. It's going to be interesting to see what he does this year. I think a lot of people around that circle are interested to see how he continues to develop, because if he does, he's going to continue to be pretty much sought after by anyone in the country right now, ranked inside the top 10 for the 2025 class, and probably will continue to move forward there and fight for a top 5, top 4 spot if he continues to grow and develop the way that he has up to this point.
What are your expectations for tomorrow afternoon?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just all about getting comfortable with each other. There's a lot of different roles for some players coming into this year, right? Miller Kopp is going to need to be that shooter for Indiana, where they had coming into last year maybe a potential 2 or 3 other options. I want to see how Tamar Bates really fits in there, but I do I do just want to be able to see that this team actually utilize the ball screen action pretty heavily with the ball handlers that they will have on the floor, which they did a lot more down at the end of last season, which was basically how they started to get that upward momentum. So I want to see what that offense looks like. I think everyone wants to see what that offense looks like. And as much as Mike Woodson wants to hang his hat on the defensive end, you still need to score some points outside of the Big Ten if you want to compete in the NCAA tournament. And that's really what it comes down to. Whether or not you shoot the ball phenomenally every single night, you need to be able to put the ball in the basket. And I think that's the next step in Mike Woodson's kind of coaching system here at Indiana is developing more of that consistent offensive scoring punch from more than just Trace Jackson Davis.
Yeah, and people talking about development, that's been an issue with recruiting. Well, he's only been here 1 year, and again, I keep bringing up the Trace Jackson Davis thing, and someone mentioned they want to see him develop a 15-footer to go to the pros. I get that, but here's my point: this is not the first year he's been told that. How long has he been playing basketball? A long time. He's been playing this game a long time. He's been told that for a long time. So if it hasn't happened by now, I don't know why, but my point was if I was a fan of a team, I don't want to see a guy trying to develop something during the season. If it's not there before, leave that on the shelf. I guess you can try to keep working on it, but I think that they have the pieces this year to be really good if they stay within themselves, if they play to their strengths. If Miller Kopp can shoot the ball, if Trace Jackson can dominate the paint like he did with Race Thompson, adding in both in and out, and then you've got a new guard tandem that could just be crazy for defenders to keep up with. Who the hell's the point guard? Who's the off guard? You're not going to be able to tell half the time. And I think that's going to be great for Indiana. That's why I don't think Trace Jackson Davis needs to get outside of himself. Stay in there, man. Just do what you do best, and I think this team can go very far.
Yep, absolutely. At the end of the day, you're not going to be able to learn a lot, but I think a lot of people are just excited and itching to see the team out there tomorrow.
Yep, absolutely. And we'll look forward to it. And complete coverage from thehoosier.com. I know the entire crew is going to be there, staff, and the live links at thehoosier.com. Am I missing anything?
No, obviously we will have some previews, some takeaways from the game, and obviously with no football this weekend, it's going to be pretty heavily on the basketball aspect. So it should be fun.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. Make sure you give Alec Lasley a follow on Twitter if you have not already, and do so to me as well at Jim Coyle ISB. But also go to thehoosier.com for complete coverage on Indiana news and recruiting. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
Appreciate it, guys. Have a good one.
Hey, we got lots more coming up here from BB's Market on this Friday of game weekend, brought to you by our good friends. If you live down in Louisville, the southern Indiana area, Floyd, Clark, Harrison, Scott counties, all down through there, Barbara Pop Real Estate Services has served that community for 3 decades. There is no one that can find or get you in the home you want better or quicker than Barbara Pop Real Estate Services. Reach out to Barbara at barbarapop.com or Matt Lincoln, Matt at barbarapop.com. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Andy Moore.
All right, Jim. So you'll need to, when we come back, you'll just need to do a quick setup.
I gave up my phone to somebody to listen to the damn show.
For what?
So they can listen to the show here.
Oh.
Because there's
no wonder you're not getting my texts.
Because, oh yeah, what did your text say?
I just said we need to get out so we can play this full interview.
Oh.
Which we're fine. Well, I'm just going to text Jeff and tell him that we're going to be a couple minutes away.
Okay. You're doing the whole interview here?
Yeah, so what we're going to do, come back.
Did you say it's 20 minutes?
It's just under 20 minutes, yeah. So what you'll do is you'll come back and just very briefly set up, and then I'll play it, and then I'll mute you. But since you don't have your phone, please just be back by like 9:50.
Oh, I'm not.
Okay.
Yeah. 9:50?
Yeah, go ahead.
You mean after the interview?
What after the interview?
You mean be back at 9:50, which is after the interview?
Yeah, and it won't be after. It'll still, like, at this rate, it'll be going to about 9:55. Just make sure you're back so you're back for the next segment, kind of thing. If you have to get up or do anything, especially since I can't contact you.
Caleb, I don't have my phone to text you at the moment. Where is? And now I've lost. Boy, this not having my 3 screens and my phone right now is sucking ass. All
right.
Let's see. Do I have? I think I do. I think I have Caleb's email. Oh, God dang it.
All right. Bring us back in. Remember, set up the interview. You all know what it's about. Just mention who it involves and stuff. So.
Well, it's about Steve Downing.
Yep.
Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com.
This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back to this beautiful Friday. It is gorgeous out there. Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you from BB's, of course, here on this game weekend Friday. Looking forward to Red Zone coming up in the next couple of segments. But coming up next, very special interview that the Hoosier.com contributor Caleb Nost was able to get for us with Marion University Athletics Director Steve Downing. Steve Downing was a 6'8" center for IU back in the day. He kind of started this Georgia movement, by the way. He was a Georgia guy. Although he was born in Indianapolis. So I always thought that he started this Georgia thing. But I did not realize that he went to high school in Indianapolis as well. But he did. But he played basketball at IU. He was an assistant coach to Bob Knight. I think he coached at Wyoming. I'm trying to think where all he has coached at once he left here. But he played for the Boston Celtics for a season. There's another IU pro. So all kinds of great things. But now he's the athletics director at Marion University. And that's another. You've got Steve Downing, athletics director at Marion. You've got Chris, the former IU basketball player from the early 90s, Chris Reynolds at Bradley. There is Pat Kraft, who is at Penn State. And, well, you might as well count Scott Dolson at IU. There's 4 ADs right there. And I think that there's another one on the women's side. But
and just to clarify, he interviewed the head coach, not the athletic director, Scott Heady, the head coach.
Well, see, I had no idea that it was with Scott Heady.
Because you were talking about Steve Downing earlier. That's why you got confused.
Yeah, I thought this was with Steve Downing. My bad. But yeah, so this is with Scott Heady. I was totally confused. I thought it was with the IU former player Steve Downing. But A lot of people don't realize that Scott is the coach there at Marion, and so that's always a little something extra. When people get to come to places like Indiana, these players will all be coming in with their video cameras and this and that. But we're not probably won't do the whole interview, John, since it's with Scott, especially if it's not relevant to Indiana. So let's go ahead and start it, and we'll see where we go with that. Okay, well, let's hear what he has to say.
We'll just jump right into it. I do want to start, just get an idea of what y'all's roster is going to look like, because you lose your top 3 scorers from last season, but you do bring in some former D1 guys, right? In Jackson and Tayshawn Cherry, 6'11" and 6'8". So I'm just curious if y'all see your system and your style of play potentially changing, given you have an increase in size from last season.
Yeah, that's a good point. We did lose a lot. I mean, really, basically we lost our top 4 players, and I don't know, probably 45 or 50 points and probably close to 20 rebounds. So, yeah, we lost, quite a bit of production, and just good guys, guys have been in the program and won a lot. So, but we do have a core of guys back, that we're in rotation. I'd say 6 or 7 guys that, played a decent amount of time. So I think, Chris Harvey and Hayden Lane Cable are basically our 2 guys. Hayden's a 5th-year guy, and he's been a part-time starter his entire career. Chris Harvey's our point guard, and he's been a 3-year starter, I think, and he was an all-conference guy last year. So those are the 2 main guys back. And then, we've got a core of about probably 4 or 5 other guys: Luke Goman, Brody Whitaker, Luke Heady, Max Gizzy. Those are all guys that played in our, and got on the court and played quite a bit. But then, like I said, we only brought in 1 freshman. And that was Hayden Naira. He's a 6'6" kid from Ohio. But he blew his knee out about 3 weeks ago, so he's out for the year. So the only new guys we have are the 3 transfers, and Tayshawn Cherry. I think he was at Arizona State for 3 years and then went to Grand Canyon. So he's a 5th-year guy.
Right.
Been hurt. He's been out for like 3 or 4 weeks. Just got back and cleared yesterday. So he just got to get in shape and just kind of get a feel. It's tough because he's just been out and wasn't able to do anything. So we're just trying to work him in as quickly as we can. But he could be an impact player, obviously. He's 6'8", he's skilled, he's pretty versatile. But he's just got to get in shape and just kind of learn our system and just kind of play with our guys, because really he's only practiced really probably about a week and a half when we first started back in September. Jackson Ames, you mentioned him. He's had a really good preseason, and then the first 3 or 4 weeks here of practice. Big, strong, plays hard. He's going to give us some size that we were kind of lacking last year. I know we had Nolan Foster was a guy last year. He was a transfer from Ohio University and played as a backup center, but he had knee surgery this past summer, and he's just getting back to full strength. So we have those 2 guys as far as, Jackson 6'11", about 240, and Nolan's 6'10", about, 230. So gives us some big guys inside that can bang. And then Josh Bryan's the other transfer from Ball State. He started out at UIndy. He's 6'5". He gives us some length on the wing that we needed, and he can shoot it. We lost Christian Stewart last year, who was, arguably one of the best shooters in the country. He was one of those 50. He was like at 45% from 3, 52% overall, and I think 95% from the line. So he could shoot it, and so I think Josh will help us there, and that to kind of fill in with give us some perimeter shooting. So those are our new guys. Hopefully the transfers are going to fit in. The problem is, like I say, we've had some injuries, and we've been down to 7, 8 players really the last couple of weeks in practice. We've just been hit hard by just a lot of injuries. Luke Heady, Lane Cable, they've both been out for a couple weeks. Like I say, Cherry's been out. We've had a couple other guys that have been, here and there that have been ankles and different things. So we just got to get healthy. That's our main thing. We have not had all our guys for practice one day since we started. The most we've had in practice is 11 guys, and we're usually been around 8 or 9 players. So our coaches have been, suiting up and practicing, and we just trying to get as much done as we can. So I'm not, usually you're always going to go through injuries, but usually it's later in the season. So we just got to get through it.
Well, you get some coaches stressed out. That can almost be more fun than anything, right?
Yeah, well, it's good. It's not me. I guarantee you, it's not me. So it's the young guys, but they've been really good, and we've still been able to get some things done. But Lane Cable, he's back. I think he got back yesterday after he's out about 2 weeks with Achilles, and Luke Heady got back. He's had a shoulder situation. He got back after about a week out, and then Cherry's back. So we've got starting to get some guys back. So that's a good sign.
Right. So I know Cherry, he was definitely, a productive player at the D1 level. Most recently with another Indiana guy, Bryce Drew. So I'm just curious if there was a connection you already had with him, like an existing relationship that maybe helped you bring him in.
Not really. Actually, we called their staff on another player that was in the transfer portal. And then at the time he had a situation had come up where he was available at the time. And with his academic situation and just, he'd already transferred going NAIA was probably his best option. And so, we were able to connect with him and get him on a visit. And so it's been good. He's like I say, he works really hard. He's been slowed down a little bit by the injury, but I think he can be a really good player for us. Really unselfish. You'd think a guy coming in from, he played at Arizona State. He played 16, 18 minutes a game for 3 years and started some, but you think those kind of guys come in and it's like, hey, what are you going to do for me? But it's not him. He's an extremely unselfish team guy, and he's probably our best screener, rebounder, ball mover. He's really a guy that's unselfish and just he just wants to play.
Gotcha. Yeah. I'm excited to see him, because he's kind of, he's got like an NBA kind of body, so I'm excited to see him, bang up with some of these bigs from Indiana. Another guy I've looked at a lot is Luke Goman. So him giving you, 5 and 5 last year, do you see him as somebody with a D1 type body and skill set? Do you see him as someone that could be a breakout candidate for y'all this year?
Well, we definitely need more production from Luke. He's always been a good solid player. He's smart. He can shoot it. He kind of plays that 4 pick and pop 4 and good passer, high basketball IQ. We're just looking for him to take that next step. He's kind of played behind some guys and more been, I don't like the term role player, but he's, just had his role on the team was more to, go in and, hit the open shot and not turn the basketball over, rebound. But now we need him to produce. We need him to score. We need him to every night, put up some numbers and be a little bit more assertive offensively, in that position. You have him and then Tayshaun in that position. So that gives us, 2 guys that are, can shoot it and are pretty versatile.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio. You were listening to Marion coach Scott Heady with the Hoosier.com contributor, Caleb Nost. Thank you for that. Talking a little bit about his team and the Indiana game coming up, which is tomorrow at 3 p.m. If you're not going, you can catch it on ESPN Plus, like I need to be promoting them. But who is going to the game? It's going to be a beautiful Saturday, so I'm thinking it's going to be a big crowd. You get some Steve Downing fans there, an old Indy guy, and I was just thinking, man, from 1970 through 80, that decade. I would like to see an all-star list. I'm going to have somebody put together an all-star list of decades of Indiana high school players. Because if you just think about the 70s, Steve Downing, who else? Who did he play with? Oh, he wanted possibly the greatest player in the state history. My God, I'm drawing a blank. Why am I drawing a blank? George McGinnis. Man, if he had been able to stay at IU, I don't think his records would be able to be touched. The guy was a prodigy, scoring, rebounding, but you keep going. The names after that, those teams, the undefeated teams, they were built on mostly Indiana guys, but all regional guys. But it is incredible the amount of talent that came out of my high school. Floyd Central went to the Final Four in 71. They were beaten by East Chicago Roosevelt, possibly the greatest team in the history of Indiana high school basketball. Pete Turgovich, Wes Unseld, Mel Stoddard, who pitched in Major League Baseball, I think played for North Carolina State. Pete Turgovich scored 40 points in that game before going off to UCLA. And then Floyd Central itself had Jerry Hale, who played at Kentucky. They had Jerry Schellenberg, who played at Wake Forest. And there was a couple others. But I was looking at the high school point scorers in the state of Indiana. It had all the members of the 1,000-point club listed. So I just out of giggles, I was just started counting them out for Floyd Central. I'm like, I wonder how many they got. And I was shocked. I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't realize this. A lot more have been added to the list. New Albany, unbelievably, New Albany and Floyd Central have the same amount, even though New Albany's been in existence for like 60 years longer. But just looking down through those names was kind of cool. So there's that. But yeah, the talent was just crazy. And it still is, because then you can go to the 80s and look at that talent. Look at the 90s and the talent that comes. It doesn't stop in this state. But but you could sure argue, well, was George McGinnis better than Larry Bird? Was Larry Bird better than Oscar Robertson? Man, you talk about some of the greatest of all time. And I don't know, because those are three completely different players, I don't know what you would pick there, to be honest with you, because George McGinnis, had his college career been able to finish, he had I think his father passed away, and so he had to go to the pros early. But man, he was a beast. Just think about if Larry Bird was on that 75 team, because he came here in 74. He would have been on the 76 team, but he would have also been there in 77, and they still would have had Kent Benson. So imagine a Larry Bird, Kent Benson matchup for oppositions. Indiana could have theoretically gone undefeated in 3 consecutive seasons. So we've got that going for us. Hey, we've got to take a break. It's break time. It's time for the Red Zone. Jeffrey the Greek's going to join us. Lots of big games this weekend on the gridiron to talk about. Ohio State at Penn State. How about Michigan State and Michigan? We'll get to all that and much more. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We're coming to you from BB's Market here as we do each Friday. Brought to you by our good friends at Metalworks Brewing Company, part of the WOW Club and Endeavor Hospitality, but you can find Metalworks Brewing at all of the WOW Club locations. Make sure you stop in. We're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Hey, this is John.
All right, Jeffrey said he is trying to get on. He's trying to finish up a work call, so he'll be on shortly. And Mitch, I haven't heard from, so I'm assuming no Mitch.
Man, these guys. Good morning, Steve. Marion's Tayshawn Cherry is a former top 40 recruit. There you go. Well, what was 70? So Gary Roosevelt, or that was that as East Chicago. Washington, I think. 71. I get them confused. Great teams, just wicked good teams. Lee, you remember those?
Yeah.
You remember those basketball teams, high school teams from the 69, 70, 71? That's George McGinnis era.
I saw George play out here, of course, as a freshman. Had freshman ball game. He was a man against George.
Oh,
he was built like a pro player then.
He was. Had he played 4 years at Indiana, and he didn't get to play freshman either, did he?
No, that's right.
His record, so he wouldn't have. Had he been able to play 4 years in Indiana, I don't think anybody would touch his records. The dude was a machine. What was he averaging? 24, 5 points a game? As a fucking sophomore.
Yeah, sophomore.
That's, yeah.
And he had Steve Downey with him on the high school team.
Oh, yeah, I know. Well, I was just talking about, that's what I was talking about, the talent from back then. My high school, Floyd Central, went to the Final Four in 71, but they got beat by East Chicago, I think it was Washington maybe. But they had Pete Turgovich, who went to UCLA. He scored 40 points in this game.
Jeffrey will be here shortly,
Stoddard.
I promise. He just messaged me again.
Now,
Wes
get
Unseld.
yours today.
This segment is brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you from BB's Market on this Friday, as we usually do. Chef JD not in the house. So, man, the food has not exactly been. There he is. He's here now. Nothing. I'm starving over here. Man, he just walked in. He's got banker's hours now. He just shows up whenever he wants. Just kidding. Hope you're having a good time.
If you had to recommend one item from BB's, just one item,
No.
if you were trying to give them the full BB's experience, what would it be?
Taking a ribeye steak home and making it.
There you go.
I mean, I've always been a filet guy. I'd always just went with the fillets over the fattier ribeye until I started getting these, and I'm like, I'm out. I'm on the ribeye train, and it's that good. It's that flavorful. It's that crazy good. But there's no way you can pick one thing here. There are too many different great options. The bakery is amazing because it's a real bakery. And there's just so many options to get. You can get, like I said, I was here a couple of weeks ago and a guy got a whole pig, the whole thing. And they could have smoked it for him had he wanted them to, but he was going to grill it. They have a big enough smoker for it all. It's nuts. We were talking about a little old-time Indiana basketball a minute ago. Robert says, was Larry Bird the last truly good player from the state? Don't believe anyone else since then has had the impact he has. Well, I don't know what you mean by truly good. I mean, how many guys have gone on to the NBA since then? Those are I mean, you can't compare. Larry Bird's in the class of his own, man. Larry Bird's in an elite group that, not many people could ever be in. Oscar Robertson could be in that group. George McGinnis. I don't know if people don't put him in that group, but he probably should have and could have been in that group. But no, I don't believe so. I mean, think of all the guys. Indiana alone has put, I don't know, 15 players in the NBA since Larry, at least. You think about Brian Evans, Eric Anderson played, Isaiah Thomas. I mean, golly, I'm going to miss a lot. But Calvert Chaney, I mentioned Brian Evans already, Kirk Haston, Eric Gordon, all the guys that are in the NBA right now from IU. So, that are from the state of Indiana, rather. But no, he's truly the last great player. But we're talking greatness, man. We're talking Larry Bird greatness. So that's next level stuff. Yeah. So Steve Alford, there he is. He has made it. He has arrived. Jeffrey the Greek.
What's up, guys? How we doing?
Oh, we're doing wonderful.
So we're down Mitchell, DS, and me for a while there.
Yeah.
Oh, Dustin
absolutely.
is at the world's greatest cocktail party this weekend.
Isn't that game tomorrow?
Yeah, well, he's been camping out or something. That's what he's been doing.
Has he really? Yeah,
Been there,
I knew yet.
Been there.
I knew.
Been there since
that's
Wednesday or yesterday.
Yeah, that's why we actually recorded our podcast on Tuesday night because he wasn't going to be available on Wednesday. I knew it was for some reason. I didn't know it was because he was just going to party for a week straight. But good for him. That's fantastic.
Hey, that's a great game. Well, in name, I guess, not so much now. Georgia should just destroy Florida.
Yeah, I think so. By the way, I really like the under in that game. I think it's 56.5. I feel like Georgia's defense has been bowing up the last couple of weeks, and Florida wants to run the ball. So I would think that game would be over pretty quick, and Georgia would win something like 30-13,
So you like the under in the Georgia-Florida game? I didn't. You know how many bets I made last week?
Too many? 0? You were stinging. You were stinging.
Had the red butt. Yeah, from the week before. I'm like, that's it. I'm out. It just made me mad.
Quitters never win, man. Quitters
how do you
never
go
win.
for 10?
It's almost impossible to do that, but sometimes the gambling gods, they just swoop down and they throw a lightning bolt at you.
There were so many games that I'm looking at. I'm like, really?
Right.
Really? They're
let's get you back on track here. I got a couple locks here for the Big Ten. I don't know how much time we got this segment.
Can you actually lock Indiana for a win versus the bye week?
Always a good joke. Always a good joke.
Actually, and the sad thing is they can't even get a win this week.
No, they can't, but they can't get a loss. Let's stay positive, right?
I guess you could lose coaches, you could lose recruits, you could have people jump in the transfer portal. You can still lose the bye week.
Yeah, that's true.
John is really peeing all over this parade, isn't he?
Well, how about this? Let's get you some money. I got 2 for you right here. You ready?
Oh, sure.
You can take one or both. You could probably parlay these. Totally fine. The Rutgers, Minnesota. Some free money here. Under 41 in that game would be surprising for me to see that game even approach the 40s. So I very much like the under in that game. 2 good defenses, right? 2 good defenses, but Minnesota just cannot throw the ball down the field. Rutgers can do They can throw the ball, they can run the ball every now and then, but consistently they can't do it. And I don't think they're going to do it on the road versus Minnesota. So I like the under, but I also like Rutgers plus the points in that game. So basically, it's first 1 to 21 wins, and I think that'll be.
What's Rutgers getting?
14.5 last time I checked.
That's a lot.
That's a lot to me. Yeah.
Huh. So
and
you,
then another,
like Rutgers?
I like. I think I like the. I think I like the under more, but I like them both.
All right, I got it written down.
And then sticking on the theme of not many points, Iowa Northwestern, which when you think about it, at 37.5, it's only a field goal under, the game we just broke down, but it's the same thing. I mean, I feel like there's two outcomes in that game that are most likely, which is a ugly 16-13 Iowa win, which is what I have predicted. That's an under, or a quote unquote blowout of Iowa winning like 23-6, and in that case, it's under as well.
So what's Iowa getting or giving up?
11. So I like the under, and I like Northwestern and the points. There's definite chance that Iowa could win by 14 to 17 points, which mostly comes down to if they can run the ball. But I got to see Iowa successfully run the ball. I got to see it first to believe it. So to me, until I see it, you take the points.
Well, there you go. Those are your two locks, right?
Those are my two locks. I mean, there's other good stuff out there too. I guess it's an under theme this week because
how about the rise of Syracuse? Syracuse has just kind of jumped up, and they've got the Fighting Irish at home.
Well, the funny thing is,
the Fighting Irish is an underdog.
Yeah,
are an underdog,
right? It's funny because Syracuse is getting more credit now in a close loss to Clemson than they have gotten all year, winning all those games. I thought I saw they actually moved up after the loss, or they stayed the same or something like that. However, I thought I was going to be unique with this, but I've listened to enough podcasts now to know that I'm not. Which is I like Notre Dame catching points going into that game.
Really?
And I also like the under in that game. I'm planning to have a wonderful weekend here. I like Illinois and Nebraska to go under 50 in that game as well. I think that'll be a game that'll be mostly controlled by Illinois. Them covering the 7.5 is close. I like that more at first. Not as much now, but Nebraska has one of the worst rushing defenses in the entire country.
And Illinois has the leading rusher in the conference.
I mean, sometimes things are they just sit there in front of you, and you just got to take advantage of it. So it's hard for me to believe that Nebraska, there's some things you can do schematically on the back seven to help yourself out against the throw game. But when you don't got the ponies up front with your front seven, which I don't believe Nebraska does, they lost a linebacker that's out for the season. Their one linebacker is just coming back from injury. They're rotating guys out. The defensive line has just been horrible outside of Garrett Nelson. So to me, I think you've got Beadle that's just coming in to get the win and is just going to run the ball and get out of there. So I think it stays under 50. And I also like Illinois covering the spread.
Well, how shocking is Illinois right now? I know I beat on the Big Ten West, deservedly so, a lot, but their only loss is to the cellar-dwelling Indiana Hoosiers of the Big Ten East, and they are looking like they're going to win the Western Division. I know they have games left.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I mean they had the game control thing. I mean, they had that game, won 2 or 3 different times versus Indiana. It's one of the more statistical anomalies of the year that Indiana was able to pull that out. I don't think there's any question who's the better team as things have gone forward here. I mean, the cellar dwelling Indiana Hoosiers also lost to Nebraska. Okay. So it's not like they're owning the West here, Jim. But
I didn't mean it. I did not in any way did I mean to insinuate
and
they own nothing.
Yeah. So they still got to play Purdue at the end of the year, obviously. But Illinois is good. You know, like if it was a more typical year where you had Iowa or Wisconsin, maybe Minnesota at the top along with Illinois, it would feel more normal. The West is down this year, but I'm going to say this, unless I'm proven wrong tomorrow, Illinois is good. My point I'm trying to make here is if it was a more normal year, I still think Illinois would have this record because I just think they're flat out good.
Well, they're solid. They've got a great running back. That is their offense running, and they're doing that well. So,
yeah,
there's that. Hey, we're going to take a quick break, but we've got more Big Ten games to talk about. Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan State.
Yeah. We'll save the good ones for the second session.
And there's some of the other big games around the country this week too. So there's Cincinnati is a 0.5 point underdog or favorite.
Really? You don't get that often.
No. So lots more coming up. We got Jeffrey the Greek with us coming to you from BB's here in Bloomington. Brought to you by Cabello Restaurant, located on the square, where you can taste the tastes and traditions of Southern Italy right here in Southern Indiana. Visit Cabello, a part of the WOW Club. Go to your Apple app or Google App Store. Start earning WOW rewards today. Sign up and get that done. Tell them we sent you. Hey, we've got lots more coming up. Back with it right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're a business.
Hey, also maybe use this last segment to talk about the 2023 schedules.
Oh, yeah, don't worry. That's a great reminder.
John, do you want to say it, or do you want me to say it so you didn't have to say it for yourself that you called this 2 weeks ago about that Indiana would open versus Ohio State? I mean, it was quite the call. I feel like you deserve to get some credit for that.
To be fair, it's partially influenced by your intelligence because you always say that Indiana is always going to get the shaft from the Big Ten, and that's exactly what happened. So,
oh my God, dude! And then, who I did?
No, Jeffrey.
Or Jeffrey did. Oh, well, he'll be back.
What a great screenshot of a face, though.
You should take that screenshot and use it. Hey, did I send you a? Hey, I sent you a.
Remove him. Tell him.
I sent you a picture. What did I send you a picture of?
It was a viewer. Someone took a picture of them watching the show.
Oh yeah, that's great.
Here, let me
message him. Yeah.
Tell him we had to remove him.
Throw that up if you get a chance.
You want me to do it right now? Oh, here we go. Here he comes. Are you back?
Yeah, I don't know if that was me or you. You were both spinning circles for a second.
You were frozen on our end.
You lost the connection.
Okay.
Who knows? You may have just had a breaking connection. But anyway, did you hear what I said before you froze up?
No, no, not at all.
No, I said that I'd partially give credit to you because Indiana, you've always said Indiana's always going to get the shaft from the Big Ten. So
yeah,
and that's exactly what happened.
That's probably been more Kurt saying that, but yeah, I mean, basically, it's just like, I mean, it doesn't take a genius to figure out. They're like, all right, we are going to protect Ohio State.
Just let us play Michigan State or something. We haven't played Michigan State in week 1. I don't know.
Yeah, I tell you what, I mean, Penn State starting their Big Ten season on the road for the 9th consecutive year. I mean, that's
James
also
Franklin
bullshit.
has an argument to be pissed about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, I think he made the error of saying the AD said, you know, this should never happen to Penn State. Like, I almost feel like that's like telling the cop, you know who I am, and then they're almost for sure going to give you the ticket. But
I just wish that Indiana could get a chance to, you know, not play a conference game too. I mean, I know 5 out of 7, it's not 6 consecutive or whatever it is with Penn State.
Right.
But,
Well, Matt Taylor had a great point yesterday saying, you know what?
Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is Friday. TGIF. Lee's in the house. Happy to have Lee here. How was that breakfast? Lee's enjoying the show.
I think I might make a beef stew this weekend. I think that's going to be my major culinary effort. What?
That just didn't do anything for me.
It's beef broth, red meat, and potatoes, man. What's not to like?
I know it's easy. That's just like making a roast, man. Just throw the thing in there and the vegetables, and you just let it go.
Maybe I'll make a roast instead. Ooh,
hey, now that smell throughout the house, boy, you're like, oh hell. But here's the thing. I'll make that, and it's just me. And what is that, like a 2-pound?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm eating that whole damn thing.
You got
not in one sitting.
Oh yeah, and I tell you the best.
Throughout the week, I'm like, that's the greatest leftover. I'm like, oh my God, you're waiting to get in there. Those potatoes and everything, the flavors just keep soaking in. Oh yeah. Mercy.
Yeah. Mercy.
I want to get to a few more games because there's some other things I want to talk about.
Yep.
All right, we talked about Ohio State, Penn State, right? Already?
No,
right?
we haven't. I have not.
Okay. All right, let's talk about Ohio State at Penn State. Ohio State, a 14-point favorite.
It's down to 14?
But I think Ohio State covers that. I know Penn State has looked better lately, but Ohio State is just – I think Ohio State can do whatever they want when they want.
Yeah. You caught me off guard here a little bit. No. Okay, we're at 15. We're at 15 still. Okay.
Well, the one I'm looking at is 14.
14?
Yeah.
Well, it was at it was at 16, so it's come down a point, which means people are coming towards Penn State. I will be interested to see.
Well, I'll tell you what. The link I'm actually on has everybody. It's got Caesars, MGM, FanDuel.
You can find
Vegas Insider, open something else. So it's 14 on this one, 14 and a half, 14 and a half, 15 and a half, 15 and a half.
Yeah.
So
I don't know who that
and a half difference.
That's a lot. I don't know who that website is that's at 14, but they're trying to get some action, obviously. I would jump on it at 14. I think Ohio State is a better matchup for Penn State than Michigan was. With that being said, in my opinion, this line is somewhat representative on the fact that Ohio State's offense, quote unquote, looked bad last week versus Iowa. But Iowa's defense can do things that Penn State's defense can't do.
Put you to sleep, man. I think that besides the pink locker rooms, they must pump in some kind of drug into the vents. And
last week was in the horseshoe, so no pink locker rooms there.
Oh, it was at Ohio State. Wow, that's impressive.
Jim, what happens is Iowa's defensive coordinator and a bunch of seniors they have on their defense just plays good defense. That's what they do, and they really limited Ohio State's rushing attack for the first time all year. They were kept under 180 yards for the first time. Iowa held them to 60 last week. So I think people are looking at that. It's just that I don't think Penn State's defense can do that. Now, on the other side, I do think Penn State's offense will have some success, but throughout the entire stretch of a game, at some point, I think the dam breaks loose and Ohio State wins this by 2 or 3 scores. I've got Ohio State 38, Penn State 21. And I think it could even be, a field goal or a touchdown higher for Ohio State.
So you're right on the over-under at 61.5.
Yeah. The over-under, that is tough. They've got that thing set well. Vegas is saying 38 38-23. So I'm like essentially really close to that. But I think Ohio State winds up covering. I mean, right now, to bet against Ohio State, you're asking for trouble.
I'm looking for the Michigan State line. I'm sure you have that ready. I don't.
Yeah, I think Michigan favored by 22.5.
Oh my God! Is there at home?
It's at Michigan. Yeah, it's in the big house. Over under's 54.5. There's some, I know stats are stats, right? And stats are useful, but at some point you just look at this and say, this is a rivalry game. And
it's a lot of points, man.
That's a lot of points, man.
But Michigan State really sucks.
Yeah, I hate that word. They are struggling against the pass. Okay, they SUCK against the pass, but Michigan doesn't really do that. They don't push the ball down the field, and whereas
they're very balanced. They're very balanced.
Very balanced. Whereas Michigan State is getting some guys back in the front seven. Slade, their defensive tackle, he's back this week after Michigan State being idle. So, listen, I think Michigan wins this game. There's just more they do right. I'm having a hard time seeing how many points Michigan State is going to put on the board. But
how do you have a game? I never understand a game that has a 22.5 point favor. Is that what you said? 22.5?
22.5, yeah.
How do you have a 22.5 point favorite in a game that has an over and under of 54?
Right. Well, that means they think that Michigan's going to win the game pretty easy.
Yeah, and that's probably the case. I mean, Michigan can score a lot of points if they want.
They can, and I am a little bit nervous for the dam breaking for Michigan State in the second half, and all of a sudden Michigan's just running the ball down their throat. So, but I still think there's a chance of a backdoor cover for Michigan State. I think there's a chance that Michigan just doesn't have enough time to get enough points on the board. This isn't an easy one. I don't think the 22.5 is outlandish, but it just seems like there's enough there to take Michigan State. And then as I hear myself saying those words, I think to myself, it sure seems like Vegas is begging you to take those points, at 22.5. So I also understand that. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, these are how each of those games start out, how Michigan State starts out versus Michigan and how Penn State starts out versus Ohio State. It's gonna say a lot for how both of those games go the rest of the day.
I want to talk about the two things I saw yesterday. The USC debate apparently is raging now because, when you think of USC, everybody thinks of
their coach. Or what?
No.
I think of. I think what I think of, Jim.
Team,
I think of
what team do you think of?
OJ.
Oh, OJ.
That's what I was thinking of.
What team? So obviously, my question is, what team? When I say USC, do you think of?
I guess either Notre Dame or UCLA.
Well, I was going for the Trojans.
Oh,
you think of?
Okay.
But the reason I'm saying this is because South Carolina is trying to get in on, since they're not relevant, although they've been around since Christopher Columbus landed, it seems, apparently. They've rebranded their logo and changed it to just USC in these block letters. It looks very familiar.
Okay.
And they put 1801 under it.
Well, the funny thing is when
I think it's a big reason is that because they're joining the Big Ten, so they're going to get so much more pub back here. But it doesn't matter. I read some of these pieces and I laugh. I'm like, what are these kids, 12 that are writing these stories? The guy that was writing one story, he goes, USC's relevance is basically based on the 2000s. I'm like, were you born in 2000 or something? I'm
Probably.
Like, have you never heard of Marcus Allen, O.J. Simpson?
No, he has not.
The guy that coached the Rams, I can't think of his name. But it just goes on and on. I mean, USC goes back to the days of Notre Dame of the 40s. Just
Pete Carroll's his name, by the way.
Well, that's another guy.
Well,
that's Pete Carroll's another one.
I'll say
I was thinking the guy that coached the Rams.
When you said USC, I just only thought of Southern Cal, so I wasn't even getting where you were going. No, but the only thing I say is if somebody says, what do I think of when I think of USC? I think of the Song Girls. I just want to say that. They're cheerleaders. So
I didn't know that was their name, but
yeah, I did. But yeah, and by the way, speaking of USC and the Big Ten, so obviously USC is not going to join the Big Ten and UCLA until 2024. So the Big Ten kept the divisions for next year, which didn't surprise me. But honestly, I'm to the point now with I'm just the exhaustive Big Ten West slander. I was hoping they would just open up the divisionless conference next year. But it looks like, obviously they're going to keep the divisions, and then they did the full conference, lay down. I think some of the biggest things is basically who got screwed and who got helped. Indiana and Minnesota, for me, they got screwed more than anybody.
You are not lying. And speaking of this, Robert says just wait when the Big Ten signs a compact with the SEC, ACC super conferences, and IU gets to open playing Alabama or Clemson. That would probably be the truth. Indiana has opened against a conference foe in 5 of the last 7 seasons.
And I swear to God, 4 of those 5 have been against Ohio State.
It sure seemed like it. One it was against Iowa last year. That was only the second time since 1979 Iowa had opened up with a Big Ten opponent. And who was it? It was Indiana the other time before.
Was it really? Yeah.
So next year, Indiana gets hammered with opening up with Ohio State. I'm going to look at Maryland's schedule. Yeah. Maryland, they open with Towson. They also have Charlotte, recently new to the D1 level, and Virginia on non-con games. Their crossover games, Northwestern, Nebraska, and a resurgent Illinois program that we'll see how that carries over to next year. But now you add Rutgers and Indiana. They're going to be favored in 7 of 8 games already that I can name. 7 of 8.
And let me just say this. I see a lot of chatter on Twitter, and like I saw a Nebraska account complain about Minnesota's schedule. Okay. First of all, Minnesota is getting Ohio State and Michigan from the East. So, that's no easy schedule for 2023. But like one thing that I just can't believe is missed so much on people look at these schedules. The Big Ten plays 9 conference games. That is 9 Power 5 teams. Anybody that schedules more than one Power 5 team out of conference is an idiot because, with Maryland having Virginia, they've done their job. You get 2 Patsies, 1 P5 team, and then the 9 conference games. That's all you need to do. That's it. Even if you had 3 group of 5 teams, you're still playing 9 Power 5 teams. Like people just don't understand that, and I think DS and I are going to complain about it on the next podcast because it's just like, I don't know what people think people should reschedule or schedule out of conference. And by the way, a team that's doing it wrong and is a bunch of idiots is Purdue. Next year, they play 11 Power 5 teams. They play 2 out of conference. That is stupid.
Who are their non-cons?
I'd have to look it up, but I mean, it is about as dumb as can be.
Well, next year, Indiana, along with opening with Ohio State, one of their non-cons is Louisville.
Dude, check out Purdue's non-conference next year. They've got Fresno State, Virginia Tech, Syracuse. I mean, all that takes is Virginia Tech finding an offense in the offseason, and that's one of the toughest schedules in the country. They also play Wisconsin. State. They play Fresno State, Vatech, Syracuse, and then play Wisconsin, Iowa, and Illinois and Ohio State. That they open up with Fresno State and then 6 consecutive Power 5 teams, with one of them being Ohio State. That's murder. That's murder.
I would take that schedule. over
Jim, what are you talking about?
Over Indiana's.
Don't be worried about no. Indiana's non-con is Louisville in a neutral site game. Louisville is nothing to be scared of, for one thing. And then you have Indiana State, FCS opponent, and then Akron, who's one of the worst teams in the MAC.
They have two easy games. Louisville, you cannot say Louisville's going to be easy.
I didn't say Louisville was a gimme, but they're nothing to be scared about.
You don't know what their team's going to be like next year.
We don't know what Indiana's team's going to be like in this the transfer portal.
Here's the way I would look at it, Jim.
It's not going to be greatly improved. I mean, it's only going to be improved so much.
Really quick, we'll compare Indiana to Purdue, okay? Louisville and Vatek, they're pretty even, right? Those two ACC opponents, they're pretty even. Outside of that, now you've got Syracuse compared to Akron, and then Fresno State compared to an FCS team. It's not even close. That is a much harder Purdue schedule.
Yeah, but see, here's the difference. Purdue plays in the Big Ten West. Indiana plays in the Big Ten East. So Indiana is still going to not only play Ohio State, they're going to play Michigan, and they're going to play Penn State.
And Purdue also gets Indiana every year, which they've owned the rivalry too. I mean, I'm just
there
saying.
You go. So it's easier. I'd rather have their route personally.
Wrap up.
But we got to wrap it up. It's been another great day, of course. Jeffrey the Greek, what's up next for you, buddy?
Work, and then making my beef stew that you poo-pooed.
Oh man, Eyes on Big podcast. Where can they find it and when?
Anywhere. Look for me on Twitter. I tweet the links out every week, and any Apple Podcast, Stitcher, all those.
Big thanks to Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com. Caleb Knows from thehoosier.com on the interview with Coach Heady from Marion. And I think that's all the guests, right? I didn't miss anybody. Thanks to John, the producer, of course, but most importantly, and Lee. And most importantly, thanks to you guys. Without you, we have no reason to be here. Appreciate you. Look forward to doing this again. Oh, possible post-game show tomorrow. Forgot all about that. Oh, my God. So look for that. We'll kick that around. But you guys go out and have yourselves a great day and a great weekend. Until possibly tomorrow, Monday, I'm Jim Coyle. I'll see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.